Welcome into another episode of Hawks Nest. I'm Clay Harrell, joined by Leon Miller. Leon, how's it going today?
It's good, Clay. I'm glad to be back. Took a little hiatus from the show, but I'm ready to do what we about to do.
You're back at a great time. It's pretty exciting times around SEMO Sports. The men's team just made the OVC tournament for the first time since 2017. The women's team's back at it.
Yep.
So let's start with the women's team. They're fourth in the OVC right now, one game to play. What are the expectations for this women's team? Does it depend on the health of Tecia Thompson, in your opinion?
In my opinion, the fate of the women's team definitely depends on whether Tecia is healthy or not. I think the team has seniors that, like Latrice saying, that could, make a big impact without Tecia, whether she's there or not. Taylor Pruitt, she's definitely been a factor in the past, and she has a big impact, but Tecia is the main factor for that team. I think that she brings everything that the team needs to go through the entire tournament. I think that they could beat just about anybody in the tournament as well, the women's basketball team.
If, let's say, Tecia is not healthy, not able to go round one, who do you look at to kind of bring that scoring spark that would be missing if Tecia is out?
Well, it had to be Taylor Pruitt. Like I said, Taylor Pruitt in the past, she's been a issue, a factor for the, opposing teams in the OVC. I think that she'll step up big time and do big things for the team with her playmaking ability and her scoring ability.
Another player that we've seen for the women's team as well to have a big impact, Latrice Saint. For SEMO, she has been incredible on the offensive end. We obviously know she's the all-time leader in block shots in school history, but the Redhawks have a pretty dynamic scorer in her this season as well.
Yeah, I love Latrice. She's always been good, a great defender, a great rebounder. Offense, over the years, she's developed her offensive game, and now she's scoring, pretty much whenever she wants to in the paint. So I think that she would be a big factor in the OVC tournament as well.
So you think if they have Tecia, they could beat almost anybody?
If they got Tecia, I'm looking to the camera. If they have Tecia, the Redhawks will win the OVC tournament. You heard it here first on the Hawks Nest. I think that the women's could definitely win the tournament with Tecia healthy.
So I think now that they're for sure fourth or fifth, and I think they play SIUE Saturday.
Right.
So they'll play either Austin Peay or Jacksonville State. They beat Jacksonville State by 8, and then they beat Austin Peay twice this year, once in overtime. I think it was double overtime, actually. So is that something that just goes out the window once tournament time hits, you think, regular season matchups?
No, I think it's a mental advantage. I think that with them beating them multiple times in the regular season, the Redhawks have an edge going into the playoffs because, they know what to expect. Now, the playoffs teams tend to, elevate their game a little bit, but we just going to elevate our game just as high as they're going to elevate theirs, so it'll be good.
Well, the women's team, they've been there before. They won the tournament last year. The men's team, though, they're back in it for the first time since 2017, and I think we would both agree that the big key is this game Saturday. If you beat SIUE, you stay in the 7th spot, and you play Morehead State.
Yeah.
If you lose, you play Belmont, who is having one of the best seasons conference-wise. They're 18-1 right now.
Right. It's all about, I think for the Redhawks, the men's team, it's all about getting in better position for, to have success in the future. Like you said, whether they go against Belmont or Morehead State, it's going to be a big, challenge either way it goes, but they have a better chance of beating Morehead State, rather than it being the number 1 seed. So
yeah, I think both teams, Belmont and Morehead State, both have a dynamic big man. Belmont has Dick Muzinski, who's averaging like 15 points a game, 6 rebounds, and he's shooting over nearly 60% from the floor.
Yeah, he's nice.
And then Morehead State has Johnny Broom, who's I think a more athletic center for that team. And they lost to Belmont by 11, they lost to Morehead State by 11, and then 14. So you mentioned the matchup with Morehead State. What do you like about that matchup more than Belmont?
I like the matchup with Morehead State opposed to Belmont is simply because, I feel like Morehead State has less weapons than Belmont. Belmont is more of a complete team. They've been playing together for a little longer, and they're more complete, I would say. They were undefeated up until yesterday. So I think that the team being the team itself, I think that going against a less experienced team in Morehead State would.
And Belmont was in the OVC title game last year with Murray State. And I think that Murray State, not to get too off topic, here's another team that if you match up with, that's another team you maybe want to try to avoid a little bit. They're right there in the middle of the pack as well. So I think the men's team definitely has their work cut out for them. I think
we got a guy though that scored 27 yesterday. So
yeah, we can't pass over Eric Reid.
Yeah.
He has. He's played great all year long, but he has elevated his game to a different level. I know you talked about playoff teams elevating their game. Eric Reid has been huge in why SEMO has clinched his berth in the tournament.
Yeah, Eric Reid, he came from Baton Rouge, played at Howard and stuff like. Yeah, he's different. He's been elevating his game every game. Literally, had a new season high, new career high yesterday. with 27. He's playing lights out right now.
And it wasn't like it was like a 27 with like 24 shots. It was like 10 for 16 from the floor. So
efficient.
And he's
27.
doing a very good job. You know, you've heard him say a couple of times that if he can get somebody to close out on him, he'll just go around to the rim. So he's doing a very good job of just kind of seeing the whole floor and distributing the ball. But I think we would both agree that the fact that SEMO's made this tournament is a huge win for this season. They were projected to finish last in the OVC. They made the tournament. I think no matter what happens in the tournament this year, I think you have to be excited for what's to come in the future.
Exactly. Confidence is key. They playing with confidence. I think they could take it and roll with it.
And I mentioned, you know, it's a very exciting time in SEMO sports. Football season's finally back.
Yep.
Week 2, I guess technically they had quite a few days in between week 1 and week 2.
They had a little break just like me. You know, they just had a little,
Leon's back, Southeast football's back. It makes sense. But they get back going with Eastern Illinois. What's one thing you're looking at to see from the SEMO team that you didn't see against Southern Illinois in October?
This game, the week 2 game that we have against Eastern Illinois, I would like to see us throw the ball. We had 56 passing yards our last game. I think that if we could get the passing game more, more circulated with the running game is efficient. Now, I think that we had over 150 yards total rushing last game, so, and the quarterback had over 100 yards rushing himself.
Andrew Bunch was a very dynamic, and I think, would you think that maybe the passing game was a little hesitant just because it's been your first game, and at that point it was probably almost a year?
Yeah, I think the game plan was a little different with it being the first game of the season. I think they wanted to incorporate the run. They were more confident, because they did lose a few receivers. They lost a lot of offensive line. They have a different offensive line, so they probably thought it was easier to incorporate the run, and the run did work, but I think that if they could get the pass going with the run, that it'll, bring everything together.
Yeah, I think you saw the offensive line with the run game, as you mentioned. It looked pretty solid, I would say, in week 1, and I think week 2, do you see SEMO coming out on top in this one?
Weeks 2? Yeah, I see SEMO coming out on top. I think that the defense will do just fine. Like I said, the defense is always pretty competitive every season, and we didn't lose a lot of we lost a few key pieces on defense this season, but we still have a strong defense, so I think that they'll definitely bounce back. Yeah,
they played pretty good in that SIU game. I think there was a couple times later in the game, obviously they got worn down as the offense kind of scuffled just a bit, and that's expected, obviously, in the first game, but the defense worn down a bit, and I think that was a big reason they lost that game. I think it was 20-17 on game-winning field goal. So
I was going to say it wasn't nothing crazy or nothing like that. I think we'll be able to hang in.
Yeah, moving on now to Southeast baseball. They're in Arkansas right now, taking on the number 2 team in the country.
Yeah.
And I have to say, yesterday was a heartbreaking loss for the Red Hawks. They were up 5-2 going into the 9th. They lose at 6-5 in the 10th, but Dylan Dodd, 10 strikeouts against a team like that. What do you expect out of Dylan Dodd this season? He's already had 2 really good starts for the Red Hawks.
I was going to say, from the first 2 games this season, I think Dylan Dodd has potential to go beyond college with the baseball abilities. First and foremost, he has the potential to be, drafted or, AAA or whatever, I think he's going to advance his game even to a new level and continue to get better. He struck out 10 yesterday.
Yeah, he had a 1.50 ERA going into the game against Arkansas and only gave up 2 runs. I think he even gave up 2 or 3 hits, and 2 of them were just solo home runs against a team like Arkansas.
Yeah.
To put on a performance like he did was, incredible. And the fight that I think SEMO showed just in general of playing with a team like Arkansas, you have to be pretty excited, I think, if you're a SEMO baseball fan.
Yeah, they got something in Dylan Dodd. For those of you that don't know, a 2 ERA is good. He had a 1.5 going into the game. So, I don't know, he's dynamic in multiple ways. I think that he'll just continue to progress.
And I think, too, you see the way they're playing against a team in the SEC that's number 2 in the country that just had this Arkansas team had a very good tournament in Texas. They beat all the Texas teams down there, or Texas Tech, TCU, and Texas.
Right.
And then the SEMO comes in and is hanging with them. I think as far as when you get into conference play, that's pretty exciting stuff to look forward to what could be in the year.
I think it draws a lot of attention towards SEMO as well, even if you don't win these games, and which we hope they do. Even if you don't win these next few games against the number 2 ranked team in the country, you draw attention towards yourself, especially if you playing as competitive as you have been playing, So I think that we'll pick up actually a few games within this series, actually, if we continue to play as hard as we did yesterday.
And you mentioned the attention they picked up. There was people all over Twitter yesterday talking about SEMO's team and just how sharp they were and how good they were. So I think that already in itself is some good attention. But softball's also in Arkansas for the Arkansas tournament. But Leon, before we give our opinion on it, we're going to send it out to our own Ashley Ellis, who's with the Southeast softball team.
Hi, I'm Ashley Ellis, and I'm here with starting center fielder Rachel Anderson and starting right fielder Kaylee Anderson. Rachel, in the 2019 season, you faced Arkansas and beat them the last time you were on their field. How do you feel going into this weekend?
I feel very confident. It's a whole new team that we have, and Coach Jones actually already said that we already faced the 2 starting pitchers that are in Arkansas last year, or in 2019. So I'm pretty confident, and whatever happens will happen.
Kaylee, you have a new role going into this game. How do you feel about your new role this season?
For my new role, I've had 5 games under my belt in right field, so I'm pretty confident there, and I have all the confidence in the world with our pitchers who took over that role from me.
I'm Ashley Ellis, and this is the Inside Scoop from the SEMO Softball team. Back to you, Clay.
Yay!
Thank you, Ashley, for that. But Leon, they have a pretty tough road ahead here. So what's some expectations? Obviously, they're playing some very good teams in the country coming up.
Yeah, they have a 5-game tournament coming up, against a few teams that are also Arkansas, Texas Tech. I think that when they come out of this 5-game series, I feel like as long as we pick up three games within that series, we'll put ourselves in a good position. We didn't start the season as well, but we've been playing hard all season. So winning at least 2 or 3 games out of this series would definitely get us back in motion as far as the season goes.
Yeah, I think it's also important to note that SEMO hasn't won to start the season, but they've also played 5 games against SEC opponents. So not an easy start by any means. They played Auburn and then Tennessee. So you have to obviously – you like the challenge aspect, right? The difficulty of the opponents and the strength of schedule. And I think that's just going to help them once they get into OVC play.
What this does right now is it better prepares them for the long run, When we get into the OVC tournament later into the season with softball, we just, won the OVC championship with softball. I got confidence in them. By the time we get to that point of the season, I think the team will be hit a groove, actually, and everything will start clicking.
They're a good team. I mean, we have Ashley on our show.
Yeah.
I mean, she had a pretty good year. She was top 30
in
home runs.
She had an okay year.
Yeah, she was pretty good last year. She was top 30 in the nation in home runs before the pause. And I think you keep her back in the mix. You still have Rachel Anderson, Rachel Rook on the mound. I mean, and we're obviously everybody that takes the field for that team, very talented. And I think SEMO softball should have a pretty big year. I mean, I'm going to let you go out on a limb here. Do they win the OVC championship this year, rather regular season?
I love going out on a limb. They win the OVC championship this year, just as they did, last year. I feel like they have the same amount of talent. I feel like they haven't lost much. That's the big thing here. So.
Right. I think that's the thing is when you look around the OVC. I mean, SEMO has had this team intact for a few years now, and so just to narrow back to this Arkansas tournament here, 3-2 is that what we're saying is a pretty respectable finish? I think anytime you can go over 500 in a tournament with some teams of this caliber.
I was going to say 3-2. I think that's the not the main goal. The goal is to go 5-0, but definitely if we go 3-2, that's good for us. It's going to put us back on pace.
Absolutely, and I think every team playing right now, SEMO Sports, there's lots to be excited about. Be sure you tune in next week when we're back with another SEMO Sports edition of Hawks Nest. Lots to look forward to. For Leon Miller, I'm Clay Harrell. Have a good weekend.